Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Flores.
Here.
Gonzalez. Here. Hussein.
Here.
Jost. Here. Messenger. Here. Pelletier. Here. Uzo. Here. Great. All right. First up, I'll make a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes from August 11th, 2016. Thank you. Any comments, corrections, questions? All those in favor of approving the minutes from August 11, 2022, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next up, public comments, agenda items only. It is just us tonight. President's report, I do not have anything. So we can move on to committee reports. So finance was in front of you. So as we kind of go through it, we can definitely pause if anybody has any questions or needs time to review, but we can at least go ahead and kind of review it together. Whatever you're ready.
Did you make a motion to approve it?
I did not, but I
No.
can.
No, that's okay. I'll make a motion to approve the financial statements for August 2022.
Second.
Is that you, Mark? Thank you.
General ledger, any questions on that? So everything's still at Fifth Third, right?
Yeah, we're getting ready to actually start transferring some of the monies over. We're gonna do it via ACH. So we were gonna do it today and we didn't get a chance to, so probably Suzanne and I will work on that over the next couple of days. So we'll probably transfer most of special reserves. Petty cash can be transferred over into the operating. So we'll transfer some of the operating into Wind Trust, so that we can start to slowly transition. And then we're also sending in the form to Cook County Assessor's Office so that our county taxes will go into the new account and not Fifth Third. So there's a special form you have to fill out and get it notarized, so we're doing that tomorrow as well.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, everything is still at Fifth Third as of right now.
The income statement. Okay. It's the last column though, right? The use per, yeah, okay, so you. No questions? Corrections? The check register, any questions?
still buying furniture for youth services, is that at 6663 is Library Furniture International for almost $2,400.
That was, we bought a new games cabinet, which was not part of the original renovation. So it now matches all of the new stuff that's down there. So that, and I think there was one other shelf, some shelving unit thing, but yeah, it's mostly the new games cabinet that we got, that, because we've been using an old metal for, I don't even know how long, an old metal thing that I think we got from like Home Depot or something for the games. So we got something that matched the rest of the furniture down there.
Any more questions? Ready to vote? Okay, so we're voting, do we have financial reports for August? Gonzalez?
Yes.
Hussein?
Yes.
Jost?
Yes.
Mason? Yes. Pelletier, yes. Puzo?
Yes.
Flores?
Yes.
Great. Okay, facilities, well, right now, facilities, update will be kind of the potential approval for the SMC contract, so, and continuing on that conversation in the budget as well, so, that's what's gonna be reported with that. Policy, we will kind of follow up with that under unfinished business, so we can all kind of have a conversation with that. So staff reports, anything you wanna add or highlight?
I don't think so, unless anyone has any questions about my written report or any of the department managers.
Welcome to Nathan Miller.
Yeah, he just started yesterday, so I think he'll be a great addition to the staff. So he's very excited to join us, so we were excited to have him.
Can you talk more about the STEM stand with having Frank over stuff?
Yeah.
Were there issues? What's going on with that?
So, Jess was talking to another library about doing doing something similar at their library or whatever, and that was fine. And once they were done talking to the other library, they were just doing some general searching to see what else was out there, if other libraries were doing something like that. So when they did a search on STEMinate, they found what looks like this commercial website using that name. And it looks like it just started recently, sometime in 2021, and it says it's like copyright and everything at the bottom. And so Jess had emailed me, and they were concerned, that, this is something that we created, and who's, how likely is it that someone else is gonna come up with something like that, right? But the biggest concern was not so much that people would like to share and stuff like that, was that would there come a time, if this company was really doing that they would tell us we could no longer do something that we created. So we had talked briefly, the management was an I talked to someone briefly about this back when we started the STEMinate stand, about whether or not we wanted to trademark it or copyright it, and we never did. So I told Jess, I said, I don't really know what the next steps are here, so I reached out to Frank and I asked him, I said, I know this probably isn't your field of expertise, but can you at least give me some guidance about where I should go to look into this some more? So he said that he did have some knowledge of it and whatever, so he's been working with someone else, an intellectual property attorney that he knows as well. So he's done a little research, and as of today, actually, it does not look like this company has really filed for copyright. If they did, it doesn't show up when you search the copyright database. STEMinate does not show up. So Frank suggested that we file for copyright right away. That would keep us, that would allow us to, I can read it to you. Just 1 second. So Frank said, basically he said to go ahead and do it now, I can't find it right now, and that, we said the other day, so go ahead and do it now. So I looked at the copyright site, and it's really involved, and, you know, he had said if you need any help, let me know, and so I made the executive decision to ask him to assist us with filing that, so we make sure that we do it correctly. So as of right now, we'll be copywriting the STEMinade and STEMinade stand, and then the use of the logo as well. So there was a little bit of a glitch. Jess had some concerns about the logo being property of the Tina who created it, but Frank and I both told her those are considered work products, or whatever the actual the term is, and works made for hire, which is usually works that are done, you know, for your employer and stuff like that. Bettina is on vacation this week, so Karina and I are going to meet with her on Monday. But basically, it's going to sound terrible. I mean, it doesn't matter. She created this for work. She was paid to do it. It's not like, you know, that kind of thing. So I'm not too worried about it. But so Frank will be working on getting that copyrighted for us. So, you know, we don't want to make money on it, we'll share whatever, but our biggest concern was that we were allowed to continue to use the thing that we created, so so right now we're waiting to, you know, to file, or we'll be filing for copyright.
And does the other company do the same thing?
They will apparently do STEM-related kits, that's their thing, so, and actually it's STEMinade.com is their website address, so, yeah, so that's how Jess found it. But, yeah, so they were concerned that, you know, we would have to stop using it, so that's where we're at. Yeah. I will let you guys know as we go throughout the process, and,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Any other questions?
It was busy this month.
He was very busy this month.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, Polo was out for a while, Gonka was also out sick for a while, and then has left on a long vacation. She went back to Bulgaria for a while, so yeah, so it's been a little hectic in maintenance, but.
Any other questions for Pam? Okay, so we're gonna move on to the policy review and recommendation on the spending policy. So, last month, there was a small group of us, and myself, Joanne, Mohammed, and Carlotta. So we wanted to table the discussion for the spending policy since the majority of the policy committee wasn't at the meeting. And we ended up having some questions. Pam did some homework, Pam did some research as well. There was, feel free to kind of chime in, but there was some concern with the jump from 7,500 up to the proposed 15,000 without board approval. So,
And with the language of it saying that
correct.
you would get three, different estimates for things less than that.
Yes.
Or more, even though
Yeah.
she, like, we would.
Yeah. So the discussion went on enough to where we thought it was prudent to table it so we could have the discussion with the full, as much as the full board present. So, and then, so there, well, which one is that? So there is the updated policy calendar that everyone should have gotten, so there's that in your packets as well. But then there's also a list that Pam prepared of what neighboring libraries have listed for their spending policies. It does vary, as you'll see. I will just, make a note that those higher spending policy numbers do coincide with the amount of money those villages have too, so.
Larger budgets.
Right, so, but yeah, so that's where, that's why you see that on your agenda again. There was just, yes, there was we want a clarification from, about the language that, if there's 3 formal quotations, is that only if, it's over this amount, is it under, and then what makes sense the most for our library in terms of, the amount that Pam has the authority to approve before coming to the board. Anyone who was here last month, did I miss anything important from that conversation? Okay. So, did Frank have any specific comments about this?
I will say, I did not get a chance to have him review this.
Okay.
Yet, so, my apologies for that. I went back and forth a little bit, and then, because there were some other things going on, I thought I would wait, till after this meeting to make sure that we're incorporating everything that the board feels is important before I have him review the policy.
Okay.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Well, you taken by,
Yeah.
you taken by Chandler, so.
Yes, I think by power.
Yeah. So, trustees who were here last month, did I highlight your concerns, thoroughly enough? And it was not, and again, it's not that it was should not be construed as that we don't trust Pam in her judgment. But just, we wanted to be thoughtful about the amount that was listed on the policy, so. And please share the discussion that you guys had in your meeting about why you decided to go to that amount. So,
I think we were discussing that, like, there's gonna be a lot of potential projects coming up, and,
And she has a proven track record of coming in under budget. I don't think trust is an issue at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not concerned about that, I mean,
No,
but
and hopefully nobody
but
else
what
is
were you
either.
guys thinking would be a good,
Do you want to chime in?
Again, I think it's, you're doubling the amount,
yeah,
and if something is $7,500, you're only, the first paragraph is asking for quotes,
Yeah.
not bids, quotes. And I even believe that's a pretty high amount,
yeah.
the 7,500, but be that as it may, I would just keep it at 7,500, that's how I look at it.
To get 3 quotes, because part of the conversation was also that things are definitely way more expensive, so we're not looking at the same quotes that we were looking at 3 years ago that are worth 7,500.
I
So-
get,
so that's-
I
that
get
was the
that, but
rationale.
if it's over 7,500, if it's 9,000 or 8,500, you still have to get 3 quotes. But when you're starting at $15,000, that's the way I'm reading this, you're starting, if something is, you have to have something done and it's $15,000, I mean, that's what, you go to somebody and they say that's how much it's gonna be. Okay, well, that's a lot of money.
So is your concern with the $15,000, Carlotta, and it goes back to how that first paragraph is worded, is it specifically that the way that it's worded now, it implies that I wouldn't get quotes? So,
Yeah.
I will say
Yeah,
right now,
that's
if
what I'm
this
looking
really
at.
doesn't matter to me, it's not gonna really affect the way I do my job. So I
Right,
mean, if
right.
the board wants to keep it at 7,500, that's perfectly fine, I don't have an issue with that.
I mean, it just looks like if it's
I mean,
something is valued, I
if that
get it,
is the
things are
primary
expensive.
concern, we can rewrite that first paragraph to, I mean, I can wordsmith it or whatever, but I mean, let's do it another time. We can reword that so it indicates that while this might be the amount that the board has given me permission to get, if I get quotes, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I'm thinking out loud, so my apologies. That
Keep
was not
going.
very coherent.
You were on the right track.
But I mean, if that's the concern, is that I'm not gonna get quotes, if it's under 15,000, we can address that and say that no matter what the price, I mean, if it's, you know, and then we can add another
That's
thing,
my
that, you know,
concern,
depending
just
on
the
if something is, you know, $1,000 or more, you know, the board prefers 3 quotes no matter what kind of thing. I mean, we can separate those things out so that,
I think the ambiguity with the wording, I think, was part of the concern last month, you know, too, because, yeah, if you did read it a certain way, it almost sounds like, well, if you're gonna spend $15,000, you don't even need to get another quote.
right.
And, you know, if you're gonna spend a chunk, then you should get a couple quotes. So, yeah, so I don't think any of us have the answers about exactly how that should be worded, but you were on the right track. I mean, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't that, you know, we can decide what amount we want Pam to, if we keep it at 7,500, if we move it to 10,000, whatever that is. But how do we word that to where it's,
So can I make a suggestion?
yes,
That, and my apologies, I probably said that I was gonna do this at the last one and it didn't get done. Let me rewrite this policy with more attention paid to when we're gonna get quotes. Or like pull it out of that first paragraph so it doesn't look like anything before that you don't even need to get quotes, okay? Let me do that, let me have Frank take a look at it, and then we can talk about the dollar amount next month, if that's okay with everyone. Because it sounds like that whole idea of I understand what Carlette's saying, and reading it over, it absolutely does sound like as long as it's under this amount, you don't have to get quotes, and that sounds like that's a big concern. And so I think that if we pull that out, I'll leave it as 7,500, pull that out, kind of wordsmith that a little bit, and then bring it back to and have Frank look at it.
and Frank might
And
have
then
some
bring it
words of
back to the
guidance. I
board
mean,
and-
obviously, there is some discrepancies with all the neighboring libraries, but maybe he has some words of wisdom and guidance about what's the best for transparency in terms of a dollar amount that he thinks is best before it goes on the agenda or whatever.
Yes.
But when you say there's a discrepancy with other libraries, I say most of them have a smaller dollar amount than what we're proposing of 15,000.
I think that's the discrepancy.
Yeah, I mean, it varies, I guess
They're
that's,
kind of all over.
Yeah.
you know, I guess that's what I mean, so, yeah,
I
yeah.
think it really depends on which of these towns you really think is kind of par with us for size.
It doesn't, really- I mean,
Yeah,
it
especially-
really doesn't matter.
especially because-
We can decide to do whatever we want. I mean, we just look at, I mean, we have a tendency to look at our surrounding libraries just to kind of see what are other people doing in similar things, right?
It's
We
a
all
helpful
kind of do.
reference point.
Right, so it just, it kind of helps, you know, work through kind of the pros and cons of changing things, or, you know, why does this library have something that's so small, or why is it so large, that kind of thing. And, you know, actually, this all came up because I had actually asked the directors on the director listserv, and then a couple other directors said, oh, yeah, that's really a good question, because, you know, I'm talking about this with my board as well, and so pulling together the information. But it does seem like we need to address the whole issue of when we're getting quotes, and kind of, that needs to be spelled out a little bit more clearly in the spending policy.
I mean,
So-
there's a lot of competition out there.
Well, there may very well be, but I will tell you that it has been very, very difficult
Yeah.
during the pandemic, and, well, I mean, with COVID is still a thing.
It's still
But it's been very difficult to get quotes, very difficult. So,
During the,
always,
Still,
it's always, and it's,
Okay, well, I mean-
and that's why we changed it a couple of years ago to get quotes whenever possible, because there are times that we've tried to get 3 quotes for things and we can't get people to respond, and so we've gotten 2 or something like that,
right,
so.
I mean, I get that,
Yeah.
but I think you still gotta put it out.
Absolutely, I'm not saying that not to do that, but I think it's
more.
But I think that the board, just in general, and myself as well, is that we need to recognize that it is very difficult to get people right now, in particular, we're seeing it a little bit, John was talking to me about it, to get people to even call back when we want to get quotes for things. So that could be, you know, it's kind of separate from the spending policy, but not really, but it's just kind of the nature of where we're at right now. This is difficult to get people to respond, and, you know, either they don't respond or they're you know, there's a couple things, again, I was talking to John about some of the roofing stuff and some other things, and he said, well, he was getting some quotes about the railings, for, you know, redoing the railings, or trying to get some. And he said he contacted 6 people. Couple didn't even respond back to him. One guy said, I can come out and give you a quote, but I can't do this for at least a year, so it wouldn't make any difference. Another guy said, it's not even worth it for me to come out and quote. And so that's kind of the environment we're in right now. Pardon?
What was it for?
The railings and the front of the
Oh, the
building.
railing.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
I think it's more about the discretion, so I don't disagree with you, I think we should get close when we can. So I think it'll either shift to be less hard or it'll continue to be hard.
right,
That's kind of mutually exclusive
Right.
to the discretion of the executive director to be able to spend the money. So if something costs 10,000, or better yet, if you get 3 quotes and the lowest one is 10,000, I would expect them to be responsible enough to go for what the best quality and lowest quote is. But it's at her discretion. So for us to approve every spend, considering how many things we need to improve in the library in the next year and a half, that was part of our conversation during the policy meeting, if we can trust her to be responsible spending the money, and part of that responsibility should include getting quotes. So I'm by no means disagree with that. It's just, what's the threshold where we don't have to review every single railing project, or every single tile project, or every single project. So the intent was mainly, how much discretion can we give Pam that allows her to act quicker than having to come to us when repairs are done. So that was just to give you guys a little context, because I wasn't here last week, or last month. And I hate it because it was a long discussion, it wasn't a short committee meeting, and that's what we were trying to come to terms with. So it was more about efficiencies, considering the situation, whether contractors are available or not, considering that things are costing way more. I've gotten a ton of quotes just personally, and it's coming in at ridiculous prices that I've never seen before. So it was again, making her life a little easier, but still being obviously responsible to the board and the community on how we spend it. It was just giving her a little bit more. That's it.
Please.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in, my day job, I'm a property manager, and I can confirm for you, it has never been harder for me to get estimates. I'm trying to get flood ceiling done on one of my apartment buildings, and it's like, guys, I'm trying to give you money.
right.
Yeah.
Show up and
It's
give
like
me an
I'm not
estimate
giving you
and
money.
then take my
Answer
money.
my calls, yeah.
Getting people to come, and the metal railing I've had to do for my own home, extremely difficult to get done.
Yeah.
And I think I don't want to see Pam getting tied up all day, getting quotes on, at this point with inflation, reams of paper or, paper clips, it's like, at a certain point, with the way prices are going, you're gonna have to come back to us with 3 bids on, a pallet of toilet paper for the bathroom. At a certain point, it becomes very cumbersome, and I don't want it to become an undue burden. Definitely without us abdicating our responsibility overseeing financial decisions.
And I think it's important to keep that wording whenever possible too, because there's the reality of it that sometimes and it's not gonna be, and one project is not gonna be worth 30 hours of that week.
Right.
Just to track that down.
Agreed.
If you end up getting 2 quotes, then that's what you go with. So that wording will stay in there.
Mhm.
I think we all understand that part of it, so, I think that, I'm willing to just go and say maybe the dollar amount is not as important as maybe just clearing up the verbiage, and then we can, revisit and kind of.
Yeah, let me tweak the policy. I won't make any changes, obviously, to the dollar amounts now. It gives you guys another few weeks, another month or so to think about that, and like I said, I will also, this will be my month for spending money with Frank, so, which is fine, because that's, when you have to do it, you have to do it. So I'll talk with him some more, and then I'll also take a look at, like the spreadsheet you got was just basically that people were just asking for the amounts, and so I can look and see how other policies are written and that kind of thing, so, and then also see if there's a better way to explain what we're trying to do.
Why can't you just change the wording, the executive director shall secure formal price quotations up to 3 or something like that from suppliers?
Whenever possible.
I mean, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and keeping the dollar amount out of that
No,
sentence
no, no,
altogether.
no, keep the dollar amount, yeah, keep that in, but, because you're saying you're having a hard time getting at 3, so.
Well,
if
it
you-
does say whenever possible on
Yeah,
here.
it does.
Yeah, it's at the very end after the 25,000, whenever possible.
Oh, yeah, this is.
Right there in part one.
Yeah, we had added that a couple years ago when
Harder, yeah.
it was starting to get more difficult to get quotes. for
Okay, then,
things.
so
Yeah.
secure 3
Yeah.
formal price, if
Yeah.
possible,
Yeah,
right after the quotations, if possible,
Yeah.
from
so-
suppliers. You gotta, I mean, the whole thing is you can't just go to one person and say, this is what I mean, yeah, a lot of things are limited of what companies can do. But if you know 2 or 3 companies, you know, say, this is what I need to have done, can you come and give me a quote, or, you know, an estimate, and they don't come out, well, okay, I mean,
right,
there's
right,
nothing you can do
right,
about that.
right. Yeah,
And we can see it even with the roofing bids, I mean, you had 5 and then 2 had to be withdrawn, so even with 5 companies coming out, you wound up with 3. So,
Well, the roof is going out for bid, correct?
the roof went out for bid because of the dollar amount.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
And that is required by law, and it's, and quite frankly, once that happens, if it goes, well, you don't have to. So the law is written, it says the lowest responsible bidder. So the responsible part gives us some ability to then vet the contractor, that kind of thing. But I mean, there could be an argument, and people have made this argument, that if you get one bid, it's the lowest bid, you've got to go with that kind of thing, right? But
Right, I mean,
So-
yeah, you can only
Yeah.
get what you get, but the way it's worded, it's, you
yeah,
have to
let
get
me
3.
let me tweak this and see if that helps address some of the issues, and then we can discuss further about the dollar amount next month. Then I think of that. Because we're talking about a couple of different things, and I'd like to get the one thing straightened out before we talk about the dollar amount, because that's really of lesser importance, I think, clarifying that.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, no action on that, we are going to review that next month. Next up, director of vacation approval. Okay, I will make a motion to approve the director of vacation from December 17th, Saturday, December 17th through December 31st, 2022. Yes. Same? This is the director
Yes.
of vacation, yes. Sorry, please correct. Jost?
Lisa Jack?
Yes. Alexia, yes. Puzo?
Yes.
Flores?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yeah.
Don't check yourself too much, don't check anything too much. Next up is the SNC bid. I'm gonna open up this motion so we can discuss. I'll make a motion to approve the SNC recommendation bid for.
Yeah, we do the last sentence of this first paragraph, I think that's for the total contract value.
Okay, thank
Does that make sense?
For the total contract value, $148,100 plus alternate number 2 of 1,600 for a total contract value of, you don't have to write all that, $149,600.
Okay, you want me to write that whole last line in the?
Yeah, or we can just start with the,
Or you can just start total contract and then that like that.
yeah, and then we'll do that when we do the minutes.
Did I get a second? Okay, Jost? Were there any questions? Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're voting. Oh, no, I'm voting, we didn't talk about it.
I was like, wait,
Yeah.
I was like.
So
I was just thinking, I still.
So technically, we need to motion, we need a second, then we can open up the discussion, and then we can officially vote. So the motion is open, so now we can have a discussion. So the bids are on the second page. kind of. See, and as Mohammed mentioned, 2 bids were withdrawn. As that is the world we're living in.
I thought, why aren't we, not that I want to spend any more money, but why aren't we putting gutters and downspouts?
Okay,
Is
so,
that something down
John and I
the line?
have talked about this, and he's been talking about it with engineers and roofers that he knows. And he believes that we should be able to address the problems with the gutters for much cheaper than what has been quoted, and that there are some other options out there that we can start looking at as they're working on the roof, and that if we do it as a change order, we'll be able to do it much, much more cheaply. And that we're legally allowed to do that. So he
Okay.
recommended that we not go with this because there's some other options that will be more economical for us and work just as well.
Okay,
So he's looking into that further right now. He wants to give me some buildings in the area that have the system that he's thinking about, or the repairs that he's thinking about doing, so I can go and see what they look like. So that's why he doesn't want us to do that, because he thinks that we can do that later on, but still this year, that for much more cheaply.
okay, after the roof, new roof.
Yeah, or kind of in conjunction with that, but it won't be part of the official roofing
Okay,
project.
'cause I knew it when we took that tour,
Right.
they said we needed gutters and
Yes,
downspouts.
yes,
and
that
everything.
will also be done, but he believes that we can do it for much more cheaply.
Okay,
So that was why he's recommending just having them do the roof. So.
Any further questions?
Just as added information too about the gutters, after having a couple people come out and look at them, John was saying that the material of the gutters themselves is not really the problem, it's where the connections are. And so one of the things that they're suggesting is changing out those connections, making them more robust and stuff, so we think we'll be able to do that for about $22,000 as opposed to $74,000, so. And still keep that within, without having to go out to bid and stuff, so.
right, right.
Because it's like, there's no reason to replace everything if we don't have to, if the problems are really at the connection levels, if we can get that addressed, then we don't need to worry about the rest. Just checking my notes from my conversation with him the other day,
Yeah.
making sure there's nothing else that,
And All American Exterior Solutions is committing to getting this job done
this year.
fall.
In the fall.
Yeah.
But having a new roof put on my house in July, it took.
It's not gonna be the entire roof, it's just one part of it.
Yeah.
So, but they are, and they do know that we want it done this year and everything, and so this was a good time for them. I mean, for all of these, actually, it's, and the shingles that we're looking at are a little bit higher grade for not that much more. They're available, so they feel like they can get it done this year.
Did they give you a time or date when they can start this?
Not
You
yet.
may have said it.
Because, not yet, because we haven't officially approved this.
Okay, so if we approve this and they tell us we can't do
No,
it.
so John has been talking to, he talked to all of them.
Uh-huh.
And when he gave me the recommendation, and, he said, we did discuss whether or not we thought that the board may not approve this or whatever, and it was my feeling that the board probably would approve this. They're a reputable company. Again, as with all the contractors, like during the renovation, SMC did their due diligence on them and everything, and so
Mhm.
they have indicated that they can start the job as soon as they get the materials, I think is what, as soon as the materials are available.
Okay.
So, so as soon as they get the official, sign, contract thing with them, then we can make everything official in terms of start
Okay.
date and stuff.
Okay.
But everyone does know and has indicated, all of the bidders did know that if we wanted it done this year, had indicated that that was something they could do.
Okay.
Any further questions? Yes, okay, Jost?
Yes.
Masajuk? Yes. Flores,
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Say my name.
Yes. Sorry, Carla. Hussein.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so next we have first reading of the 2023 budget. Pam, I'll let you take it.
Take my mask off for this.
Yeah, please.
I got my flu shot today.
Oh, that's right, you got that today, yeah.
Okay, and my flu shot, so if my arm starts to fall off.
Yeah. I love mine too.
So my apologies for not having, hold on one second. I might have to go get Bob to turn this on.
Button over the middle.
It's on a button.
Oh.
It's on, the screen has gone off. So I don't know. I'm turning that off.
Is there a rubber by on the front? Oh, okay.
Sorry. I have staff that do this for me.
Yeah.
It was working.
Oh, it's on.
Yeah, it's
coming
coming.
on. Okay. If I can turn off more lights if you need to, this is still, my computer now. So my apologies for not having everything done for your packets. The earliness of the Labor Day, the earliness of the meeting during the month kind of threw me a little bit. So I have distributed to all of you the budget, some supporting documentation, the budget notes, which is what I give you usually every year. I've also given you this year a couple of other pieces of information. One is just a brief write-up of kind of the history of the last 10 years of our levy requests and cost of living increases and that kind of thing. Basically, in further support of my recommendation of what I'm hoping the board will agree to increase the levy to. So, I thought I would spend some time going through the budget as I usually do during the first reading. I have the projector in my laptop down here because I thought it might be, in case the board wanted to look at different scenarios, we could change numbers kind of on the fly so you could see those. If you don't want to do that and just want me to read through some things and answer your questions, we can certainly do that. So, as I have mentioned several times over the past few months, that I was not going to be able to keep the budget flat, the levy request flat again next year. We had kept it flat for 3 years prior to this, and with the increase in everything, with the building priorities that we've got for the next few years, our ongoing efforts to make sure that staff are appropriately and adequately compensated and that we're positioned well in terms of our neighboring libraries, but also other industries that are in the area. You know, there's this whole, we have a whole tier of employees who, like Suzanne, for example, doesn't necessarily have to work at the library, but what do I have to pay her that makes it competitive if she wants to go somewhere else, that kind of thing. You know, maintenance people, positions like Suzanne, some of our frontline circulation staff. I mean, those are the kinds of people that are going to be looking at other places as well, not even other libraries. So looking at a bunch of those kinds of things. So I have given you many potential increases. I know it's tiny on your packets and it's tiny up on the screen. So I've listed out levy increases from 3% up through, basically it's not up here, but you can see it on your sheet, to 5.25% increases. I will not ask for 5% or over, unless the board really wants me to, just because we would have, not that we don't want to do this, because I feel like we can adequately defend anything that we're looking at spending. I mean, we're not like going crazy with the taxpayer money or anything, but anytime you ask for 5% or more over the extension what you got the previous year, you have to have a truth and taxation hearing. So, you know, I've always tried to be really conservative in my budget preparations, you know, not because I can't defend the budget or whatever, but, you know, I just feel really strongly that I want to make as much effort as I can to be mindful of you know, people's monies, but also providing service that they expect, and all those things cost money from having staff. So I really focused mostly on the 4.5 and the 4.75% increase. If you look further down on the budget, I mean, if you look all the way at the bottom on your budget spreadsheet, so basically what I have here are some different scenarios if the board approved like a 4.5% levy increase here, and then I've got some different wage increase percentages there. So these numbers of the red numbers are where I would have extra money that I can put back into the expenditures, or that I have to find money to cut expenditures. So there's that at the bottom. So, all that being said, I'm happy to start going through the line, and that might help guide some of our discussions as we talk more about what we want, what we think is appropriate in terms of the levy request. So obviously the top part of the budget is the revenues. So the big thing that's going to change for us is going to be the property tax receipts. 99% of our budget is made up of property tax receipts. Obviously you can see that pretty clearly. The replacement tax receipts are probably going to stay about 26,000. They vary between 21 and 29,000. So over the past several years, so we kind of average that out to 26,000. Fines, since we're fines free, we don't get a lot of fine money anymore, but we do get some lost materials payments, photocopies and printing, miscellaneous income. So grants, that line usually includes our per capita grant, and then the age options grant. That is higher than it was for this year because, as I've mentioned in the past, last year the per capita award, like the award per person, went up, but then this year with the increase in population, so that's now going to be an increased, that'll be an increased check than what we've got in the past, so that's why that number is a little bit higher. Interest income, I always estimate pretty conservatively, so I'm not sure where we're at this year with interest income. I'd have to look at my sheet, but so I estimated that pretty conservatively. Book sale receipts, I kept about the same. Vending, I have originally intended to get some vending income this year because I thought we would open the vending machines at some point, but we probably won't. So I'm thinking that I would like to open them at the beginning of 2023. So I'm hopeful that we'll get some income from that, and we should. I mean, that was making us some regular money before, so it was hard to turn that off or shut that down, so that'll be good. And then donations, I increased as well.
And can I just chime in for a second?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned this to me, but, and there's a note that Pam has written on the budget history, but will you just kind of like with your mouse even just kind of highlight the line or highlight the, your suggested levy request that you have in mind, as well as once we get down to the expenses, your suggested or your preferred, or whatever you want to say it, wage increase too.
Yep.
Because, and please share your input and your thoughtfulness with that as well.
Mm-hmm. So, as I said a few minutes ago, and also on the budget history, my recommendation is a 4.75 increase in the levy. with a 4% increase for wages. And that actually is, if you look at the bottom, sorry, of your sheet. I'm going to regular mouse between this. So if we're down here.
Yeah, that last little note wasn't on ours, so that's.
Yeah,
that's how
that was
it's
on
on
mine.
everything.
So,
Yeah.
so if you look here, okay, so I know that wasn't because it was on mine. So,
Yeah.
what this is showing where it's highlighted in blue right now, this is the 4.75 levy increase. Sorry, it's not showing up on my screen with the way that the page breaks go. And then, this dollar amount includes the 4% wage increase, which is what I'm recommending. And so what this is showing is that there's $4,100 that I can put back into a budget line. So we would put like $41.90, so $42,000 we would put back into, let's say, the 70-20 line. So instead of $180,000, the amount would be then $184,000. So that gets zeroed out, since that's required for the budget when we send it to the village. So that is ultimately going to be my recommendation, but obviously I gave a lot of different scenarios for the board, and that's why this year in particular, because it's been such a crazy year with inflation and wages going crazy and just all these other things and the building priorities that we have, I really wanted to get the board's feedback about the direction that you want me to go. I will say it would be extremely difficult for us to continue to provide the services and the programs and the staffing quality that we have with keeping the levy flat is always an option. Obviously, I'm here to do what the board tells me to do, and if that's what you tell me to do, I will make that happen, but it would be painful. I really feel like what I've recommended is the best move going forward in terms of being able to provide what our patrons expect from us. And I believe it also positions us pretty well for the next couple of years, where we won't have to, I may be able to keep the levy flat then for the next year, or maybe the year after that even, or even have just minor, like 1% increases, those kinds of things. So that's kind of why I'm going a little bit higher. But I think when we get down to like a 3% increase in the levy, that would be really difficult to accommodate and still continue to provide the services and the programs and the collections that we have right now. So it's, you know, just if we didn't have to worry about the building priorities, if everything was, you know, was a perfect world, if we had a brand new building or whatever, that would be less of an issue. But because we do have several major building priorities in the next few years, I think that as good stewards of the public money, you know, as I said a lot of times, this is a building we have to make it last. And so I would be doing the community a disservice to let the building fall into, and to assume that, oh, I don't have to take care of anything else now, because, you know, we've renovated the main level, we've renovated the lower level. Unfortunately, there's other issues still, as we all know, so that's kind of where I'm at with that.
So, didn't mean to interrupt your.
That's
thought,
fine,
but
so-
I do want to make sure everyone hears your,
Yep,
what your.
yeah, no
recommendation
problem, and I
is. So-
figured I would get into that more
Yeah.
as it goes on too. as
Well, what's that third column where there's 21,908? What you don't have on your screen?
Hold on, let me, I have it on my sheet, and maybe it's just displaying differently. so-
Or did you?
No, I didn't. So that column, that last one where is the, hold on one second, let me look at this.
Is it a wage increase?
No, that is a 4.75% levy increase and a 3% wage increase. That last column.
As opposed to.
So you're not considering that?
I mean, I whatever the board wants, I would consider that. I think that's fine. That gives us almost $22,000 to put back into another budget line to spend. My concern about a 3% wage increase is that, as you know, we've been working really hard to make sure that our salaries are comparable to, you know, positions in other libraries, with that kind of, all those kinds of things. We had the compensation project done at the end of 2019, which went into effect 2020. So we worked really hard that first year to move people up, and then the pandemic started and all these other things. But one of the recommendations that is made that, you know, HR people recommend and HR Source recommends this, is that a major compensation project, you should do that probably every 3 to 5 years, which is fine. But in the intervening years, the recommendation is that you do some pay structure adjustments, just so that you're keeping up with cost of living, that kind of thing. So if I do, and so there's been 2 of those, they haven't made their recommendations for 2023 yet, so we're kind of weighing that a little bit. But once I made those pay structure adjustments, you know, the work that we had done to get people kind of towards the midpoint of their range, you know, particularly for people that have been here a while and really should be making close to the midpoint or whatever, even over in some cases, they're falling further and further behind. So that's why I'm recommending a little bit higher wage increase than 3%, just to kind of keep us comparable to area libraries. And I mean, because that's
So
really
not
what
even
we're competing
competitive,
against.
comparable.
Pardon?
Not even competitive, just comparable.
Just comparable,
Comparable,
yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of what, I mean, for a long, long time, our pay was very low. And so one of my goals has been to make it more competitive and comparable to other libraries. So that's, if this ends up being what the board wants to do, then we would certainly
Okay,
do
no, I
that.
just wanted to know because you
Yep.
didn't have it up there.
Yeah, it is on there, it's just the way that the page breaks are
Oh,
going
okay,
on my,
okay.
yeah, let's see if
I thought you weren't considering it at all.
No, so, yeah, it's
Oh,
way
there it
over
is.
here, my second page, so.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and it's on my sheet, so that's just the way that it's displaying and where it ended up. So my apologies for that. So we can consider that, but that's, I know it's a little bit backwards when I was doing it, so. Yeah, so that first group of 3 is the 4.5% levy, and then the first column is if we did a 5% increase in wages, 4%. Yeah, does that make sense? This does not provide you any meaningful information right there, does it? It's a lot easier when I mean, at my desk, I've got the 2 big monitors and everything, so, yeah.
Double screens, yeah.
So anyway, so that is my recommendation. Whatever the board wants to do is what I will make happen. And obviously, since this is a first reading, it's not one that necessarily needs to be decided tonight. Though usually we try to do that. And as I said earlier, I really was looking for some guidance from the board about how you wanted to proceed with some of these things, So that being said, going back to the notes, so if you look at the notes, so expenditures are fairly the same. The major differences, like I said, are gonna be in the whatever levy request we make, and then slight increase in the per capita grant stuff. So those are gonna be sort of the bigger changes. And those expenditures aren't, or those revenues, all those other revenues will not change, just the property tax will not be so. Okay, so we usually start out our expenses with salaries, exempt and non-exempt. There is, as I said, I'm showing 3 potential wage scenarios, increases of 3, 4, or 5%. Again, just explaining what I just explained to all you guys, that you're trying to make people's wages comparable. So the increase in the non-exempt line, as I said, it reflects the increase in wages possibly, but also the elimination of the lead graphic designer position, which was Karina's. When she moved to manager of the marketing engagement department, the content coordinator position that we just created and hired Jan for is a non-exempt position. So that kind of lost that exempt dollars and moved those over to exempt. That non-exempt number also reflects 3 positions that are currently not filled, but one of them for sure we will be filling is the tech services one. We're just holding off right now because there's been no reason to hire someone at this point. But the other 2 are another adult services associate and then potentially another maintenance person. So, because that's, it's been difficult. The we had lost a weekend person and never replaced them when we had the cleaning crew, but Ed and I have been having some discussions about hiring another part-time person possibly. So that's why you've seen, so that's where those increases are coming from. And then obviously changing those two lines does affect IMRF and then FICA as well. And those are all reflected when I've had to make those changes further down. Does anyone have questions about those? Unemployment, we did have some unemployment expenditures this year, which were a holdover from pandemic-related layoffs. So I don't anticipate that we'll have, I don't anticipate that we'll have any unemployment costs for next year. We typically do not. We've only had unemployment costs a couple of times. A few years back when I let go the IT person, we had unemployment costs related to that, and then now with the pandemic stuff. But I don't know if everyone is aware that we don't pay unemployment insurance here at the library. We're what's considered, there's a term for it that the Illinois Department of Revenue uses. But basically, because we don't pay unemployment insurance, we're a reimbursable employer, or a reimbursing employer. So if we should let someone go when they file for unemployment, the IDES bills us for that amount, and then we pay that. So we have figured out over the years, because we don't let a lot of people go, that it's been cheaper for us to do that as opposed to paying ongoing unemployment insurance, because we don't have a lot of, letting people go, layoffs, that kind of thing. So moving on to retirement. For those of you that have been here for a few years, you've heard this every year. The library participates in 2 retirement programs. IMRF, which is required if you meet the criteria for that. No one has an option of not participating in IMRF if their position warrants it. And then the MRF plan, which is Municipal Employees Retirement Fund. So right now we only have one person that is an active employee that is still on the MRF plan. Everyone else that was on the MRF plan has retired. In some cases they passed away. But we are obligated to continue to fund the MRF plan while we have participants, either actively in the program right now or receiving retirement dollars. So we will continue to have to pay into that as well. I don't know when I create the budget exactly how much the MRF plan will require us to put in to maintain the correct balance. But I estimate, based on what's happened the past several years, as people have left it, it's been a little bit less each year, but it'll still probably be about $160,000 to $165,000, I'm sure. So we have to make sure that we budget for that in addition to IMRF. So this year, for 2023, the IMRF rate has gone down a little bit. This year it was 7.48% for the employer portion. Next year it's going to be 7.13%. So it's always nice when it's a little bit less, because that does make a difference. The employee rate that they put into IMRF is 4.5%. That always is the same. It never changes. Any questions about IMRF or retirement stuff? Health insurance. Health insurance did go up for 2023 a little bit under 4%, which is nice, because I thought it was going to go up like 6 or 8%. For 2023, I did bump up the amount that employees have to put in. This year and previous years, it's been $30 per employee for single coverage. I'm going to be raising that to $50 a month per person. Obviously, that helps offset the increase. And as you can see in my description too, when I create the budget, I plan for all eligible employees to get the highest, the best, the premium healthcare plan, right? I have to assume that everyone who's eligible is going to do that. And so I figure on that. So it's 24 people. As you can see, if they all chose this, the cost of the library would be $248,544. In reality, though, we have several people that do not get insurance that are eligible. So they get it through a spouse or some other way. Or some people get Plan B, which is significantly cheaper for the library. So my anticipated costs for next year are more, probably gonna be around 200,000 as opposed to 248, but I still have to budget for that because of, you don't know people's situations, and they could all decide that they want insurance, and so I have to make sure that I'm covering that. So this year, when our insurance consortium also had a high deductible plan, which Suzanne and I have looked at and decided that it's probably not worth it for the library to offer that. It doesn't save us any money, really. And it would require us to create health savings accounts. We'd have to do some other administrative work on our part that we felt that wasn't really worth it for the library to try and do. Over the next year, we'll be taking some other looks at that, and, Wynn is looking at that as well. I do think that over the next year, Wynn is also looking at other insurance companies. Right now, we're on Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois. But I think that they're looking at, they're always looking at other companies to see if it's cheaper for people and stuff. Any questions about healthcare? So with the increase in the employee portion, and assuming everyone gets Plan A, that won't happen in reality, but assuming they will, there's only about a $4,000 increase from this year. So, and in actuality, it probably will be about the same cost, just between with everyone, with people not getting insurance and that kind of thing. Budget lines 40, 65, 40, 70, and 480. The FSA is the flex spend account. Those are the fees that we pay to provide that service to employees. And then the disability and life insurance, that is actually all through WINNOT. So those numbers are based on what we pay them. And those disability and life, that is a cost that the library covers, and that is available to all of our employees who are eligible for health insurance, no matter if they take the health insurance or not. Moving on to collections. These are all the dollar amounts that the department managers give me, so I rely on their input when it comes to this, and so everything except for one budget line is what the department managers have asked for the different collections. So Melissa has, said she wanted to keep the book budget flat. Courtney said the same thing about the YS books. Periodicals are down a little bit, but that is the amount requested by Helga, the tech services manager, based on the number of magazines that we get through our jobber. And those things are continually dropping off every month. It seems like one more magazine goes out or is not being printed anymore. E-periodicals, we did create a separate budget line for that a few years ago, but then now we're actually going to be eliminating it because we did have a separate vendor for our e-magazines that we've discontinued because now we're getting all of our e-magazines through Overdrive, which is the Libby Digital Library of Illinois service and everything. So after discussing this with Melissa, we agreed that we could eliminate that budget line because the cost of those magazines is being covered in other areas. So that's been eliminated. The AV dollar amounts, those were the amounts requested by the managers. The adult services one stayed the same. YS went down a little bit. CDs and DVDs are being used less and less as more and more people use streaming. So that's part of what's driving that decrease. Library of Things, we decreased for a couple of reasons. Well, actually one major one is that we probably aren't going to be adding too many more things to the Library of Things right now because we're out of space for storing them. So Melissa budgeted $500 if we wanted to add just a couple of more inexpensive things or to replacement parts, that kind of thing. So that is the dollar amount that she had asked for that. Microforms and digitization, every year that's about the same. So this is the cost we send out I always forget which one we send out to be digitized. And it's one of the local people, so we keep that on microforms, so that gets done. Programs for adults, this is the one area that is down just a little bit. Instead of 25,000, it's 23.5. Courtney asked, so that was for the adult services one. I did talk to Melissa about, she had requested 25,000, and I had talked to her about decreasing that a little bit, and she was fine with that. Courtney requested a little bit more, so I made both the programming budgets for both departments the same at 23.5. And we do a ton of programs, so I want to make sure that we continue to support those, because we're really well known for our programs and they're super popular. So grants, this is the age option grants. Usually it's about $7,500. Sometimes it's more, but this is what we plan to spend, is $7,500, and if there's extra, that's great. So we are going to be applying for that age options grant again. I don't see any reason that we wouldn't get it as usual, because they've funded us now for a few years. So photocopier acquisition and maintenance, the increase in that reflects contractual increases and more actual costs. Automation, I'm keeping the same. I had a meeting with OSG yesterday, 2 days ago, I don't remember, sometime this week. And this dollar amount encompasses both our monthly maintenance fee, new computers that we might have to get for next year, our licensing, and any AV requests that have been made by the department managers is all encompassed in here, so without having to raise that budget line. Databases have stayed the same. We have tendency not to get, we don't usually add any databases unless they're really great or they're kind of inexpensive, because our databases don't get a ton of use. So this number is more than enough for our adult databases. The YS databases are down just slightly, and it reflects more of the actual cost. YS only has a few databases, but they're pretty popular. BrainFuse is like a homework help one, and then they've got Scholastic books, Scholastic something, and then Tumble books are the three that YS has. The databases for staff support, I reduced that significantly. Last year when I put $19,000 in that budget line, we were discussing getting something called Collection HQ, which is several $1,000s, which we decided we did not need. And so we were able to reduce that budget. So the $7,500 for next year reflects the actual cost of things that we're paying out of that budget line. Web maintenance improvements, the $2,500 is the amount that Karina had given me, and it's a more accurate reflection of what the web maintenance costs are. And then CCS will be paid for the catalog, and that's bumped up just slightly, which is, the increase is due to a slight increase in our OCLC costs for that. Any questions about the materials or services? Okay. So now we get into the fun stuff, the building. So building maintenance, this is the same as it was this year. It's typically not $80,000, but we bumped it up a little last year as well to cover some of those other building expenditures that we're recognizing that we have to address that are kind of outside of big projects, which the construction in progress kind of covers. So the $80,000 for building maintenance is the same. The line 720, construction in progress, is where we kind of move some of those monies around. So like if depending on what our final decision is, or the final decision of the board, this is the line that will hopefully go up. This is my goal, is to have this go up. But this $180,000 for next year would cover, did I write it down here? Would cover, sorry, too many pieces of paper. So for 2023, so if we're doing roofing, gutters, hopefully the railings this year, then the money next year will cover, my plan is for it to cover the masonry work, the tuck pointing, exterior painting. There's replacement of a few pumps that we have to do, and fire sprinkler system testing, which is about $10,000. So those are my building project priorities for next year, based on the facilities assessment.
Windows aren't in there,
I'm sorry?
windows. You
Windows,
didn't, maybe I didn't hear you say that.
I did not.
Okay.
I said tuck pointing, exterior painting, replacement of pumps, and the fire sprinkler system testing. So that's in the notes too, so if you forget what I'm saying, or don't remember what I said. When I was originally talking with John about projects and trying to space them out so that we could afford to do them over the next several years, I was originally hoping I could spend $300,000 each year to address some things, but that seems really not possible. So I'm sticking up to that $200,000 range, which I think is more realistic for us, without saying, yes, we have to have a 6% levy increase, that kind of thing. So, so I wanted to, you know, when John came out to talk to the board, he kind of said, you know, and his approach is like to do things from the top down. You don't want to do all this work if your roof is going to leak from things, right? So we're taking care of the roof as soon as we can and that kind of thing. But then the other thing, the next, you know, when I asked him, I said, what's a priority? He kind of looked at me, he's like, well, it's all a priority. So really, we're picking and choosing and crossing our fingers that something else isn't going to fail in the interim. So next year, as I said, I wanted to tuck pointing and the other things that I've outlined. And then I was thinking for 2025, if depending on monies that we've got, I mean, we may be able to do some more things next year. But 2025 would then potentially be the elevator, window replacement, and so we're pushing things out, I think, like an additional year than what is on the most recent spreadsheet from John. But I think that's still, I think we're still okay, and we're approaching the repairs to the building in a manner that makes the most sense. So, any questions about that? Equipment, machinery, and maintenance, that's always been about $50,000. That's stayed the same. We've always had no problem with that. And that covers like the sprinklers, the alarms, the HVAC, elevator maintenance, the generator, that kind of thing. Furniture acquisition, I'm keeping at $10,000. There's always little areas that we would need to get furniture if we need like new office chairs or a new desk for someone or that kind of thing. So we're keeping that in. And again, remember everything that, you know, I don't plan the budget with the idea that I'm not going to spend all the money, but any monies that aren't spent get to be put into special reserves to go towards the building. So. Utilities, I bumped up because, as you guys know, utilities are more expensive. So this is a more accurate reflection of what our utilities are going to cost next year. We may go over this year because when I created the budget, utilities were not as expensive as they are now. Insurance, this has stayed pretty stable for the last few years. We have a great insurance broker who works really hard to make sure that we get the best deal and that we're adequately protected. And this is a reflection of the actual cost of the insurance. And then the Square credit card fees are just fees that we pay Square to use. That's what we use for taking in money at the circulation desk. Library supplies, we're keeping at about $35,000. This covers the paper supplies, library card stock, paper clips, all those kinds of fun things. You know, paper for the copiers and the printers. So 35,000 is usually, has been plenty for us. The COVID-19 supply line, we're actually eliminating as a separate budget line next year. Sorry. Telephone, anyway, I'm just gonna read it, because this is, it's not wanting to do this for me, yeah. So telephone, the amount on 2023 that reflects our actual cost for the telephone system, much cheaper than our old system, and we've all been really happy with the voice over IP new system, so that's been a good decision that we made on the fly during renovation. That's at $10,000, and that's even probably gonna be, I think our actual cost will be about $9,600, but we're just gonna get a little bit extra. Postage, this is the amount that was requested by Karina. It reflects a slight increase in postage for the newsletter, other things that get sent out. We don't send out a ton of mail so much anymore, but bills we still send out, that kind of thing. Mostly it's newsletter stuff. Printing, the increase in that reflects an increased cost for the printing of the newsletter. So that's the actual amount. Promotion and publicity, I did put a little bit more in there. This, in 2023, is the 85th anniversary of the library, hard to believe. So marketing will be planning a few extra things for that, so that's why we increased that. Meals, recreation, and recognition. This is like staff recognition, if we have staff in-service days, you know, when we buy lunch for the staff, that kind of thing, so it covers that. That's been at that amount for the past several years, and that seems to be an adequate amount for what we do for staff. Continuing ed and meetings, I kept it 12,000. It was a little, I had bumped it up last year because PLA, and I knew that a couple people would want to go to Public Library Association. I kept it at 12,000 because the American Library Association conference is in Chicago next year. So we always try to send more people because we don't have to pay as much for transportation, so it's easier to spend more money. We can spend that money to send more people to the conference, which is always really fun, especially for staff that don't normally get to go to a lot of those kinds of things. So I kept that at 12,000. Memberships, I kept at 12,000. This includes staff and trustee memberships to like ILA, ALA, and then also like library memberships and different organizations as well. Professional and consultant services are actually combined. It was supposed to happen last year, but it kind of fell through the cracks a little bit. So we eliminated consultant services as a separate line and mashed those two things together, professional and consultant services, and then bumped that amount up. And as it says, it includes our attorney fees, it includes fees for signage for accounting services, not audit services, which is separate. If we want to hire someone for the strategic plan, I'm actually talking to someone next week about that. So it includes those kinds of things. Miscellaneous is just, we don't know where else to take something out of. This doesn't have a lot of money in it because most things are coded, or you know, they do fall in one of the other categories, but there are some things occasionally that we need to expend money out of that. Vending, because I would like to start the vending, or open up the vending machine again in 2023, we own that vending machine, and so we purchase everything and we put it in there, so that's why I put $5,000 in there for purchase of stuff to put in there. So we'll see. I was talking to someone the other day, and so we had the greatest deal going in Warren Grove. Everything was $1 in the vending machine. That's when I open it up again, maybe everything will be $2. We'll see. But I knew things were getting expensive, and so I'm a huge Diet Coke person, and So it always goes McDonald's and get a large Diet Coke, and it's $1.11 with tax. It's not $1.
It's
Not
$1.11.
anymore. The first time I'm like, cause I got my money out and someone told me that, I'm like, what? Okay, now inflation is really hitting.
I know.
But anyway, so we have to spend money to make money on vending, so that's what that's for. Mileage, this year, in 2022, the IRS did raise the rate from 58.5 cents per mile to 64.5 cents per mile, is that right? Anyway, yeah, and, anyway, but I kept the mileage reimbursement the same as last year. A number of meetings and that kind of thing that library staff are going to are still virtual, so staff are not driving to meetings as much, though there are still staff that are driving to places. Ed drives quite a bit, run to store and that kind of thing. So that is still the same as last year. Collection fees. As I say in my notes, this is a budget line for fees that we have to pay to other libraries if one of our patrons loses their materials. So we receive reimbursement from patrons for that, but we have to have a budget line to pay it out of when we make that payment. So that's why we have that there. FICA, as I said, there's so you've got 3 different scenarios here with FICA. So the 132 is if we did 5% increases in salaries. The 130,874 is if there were 4% increases in salaries, and the 129,615 is if there were 3% increase in salaries for FICA. So. And I didn't change that number for the retirement. That didn't really change because of the MRF component of that. We'll be paying about the same. It would all be covered under that 265, which I had listed out for the retirement fees, which are further up. The audit line, this is separate than the professional consulting fees line. This is for payments for the audit itself. So it's usually about $10,000. That's why that's there. So you've got 2 lines here, 950 and 9050 and 9060. One is for the principal of the loan and one is for interest. They're listed out separately because during the audit, this is how the auditors will look at it, but for budget purposes, this is the total amount. The $154,600 is the actual amount that we will pay that includes both principal and interest. So it's just so in 2023, as you're looking at, and you can see it this year in the income tax, in the income statement at the bottom, you'll see that we've separated out principal and interest, so that will be displayed that way, but the total amount for budget purposes is $154,600. And
So the
that's
154 includes the 29,000, it includes the interest.
yes, yeah. Yeah, I don't have, that's what the total dollar amount is, and I don't have them separated out in this case for these purposes. So that's it, basically. And then, as I explained earlier, what you've got at the bottom are, many different scenarios depending on what you decide in terms of the levy increase, what the board gives me permission to do in terms of salary increases. So
The red numbers are,
the difference between, so if it's negative, it means I can take that amount of money and put it in another expense line. So I can add that money to something else. If it's not negative, that means I have to find places that I can take that money out of expenses and put it into there. Does that make sense? We'll go backwards.
Yeah.
But basically, it's the difference between what we're spending money on and what we would potentially get the money that would be coming in.
So you're looking at a 4.75 levy increase.
Correct. That would be my recommendation.
Okay. And a 4%
Wage increase.
salary?
That would be this right here, which would
And
give
that's
us
five?
$41.99 to put back into, in this case, I would put it into construction in progress, so that instead of $180,000, that would be $184,199. So that would zero that out, if that's what the board is comfortable with me doing. But again, I mean, whatever the board wants me to do is what I will do. I'm just presenting some different scenarios and what I think make the most sense, and allow us to continue to serve the people in Morton Grove in the way that we have, as well as taking care of this building. I know, I don't wanna spend this money on the building either. I wanna do like fun stuff. The building stuff I wanna do is like, I wanna redo the elevator, cause that's fun, right? And it's noticeable, but I'm like, okay.
It's like adult money.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
it's like you have to spend all this money on things that are like not fun,
Yeah.
but you have to do it.
Okay. Thank you for your work on this.
No problem. Again, my apologies that it wasn't done before tonight, so.
Well, it's a lot to put together. I see why.
This year, I've spent a lot of time thinking and playing around with different spreadsheets and different scenarios and that kind of thing, and this is kind of where I ended up as what made the most sense to me, being fiscally responsible, you know, taking care of the building, taking care of staff, but like I said, also being mindful that, you know, I think the board knows I try to be very, very careful when I prepare the budget, and I don't ask for a lot of money that I don't think we need and that I can't defend absolutely, you know, when I ask for it. So that was kind of my reasoning behind preparing the budget history, because it was like I was pulling together all this different information, and I thought it would be useful for you guys to see as well, kind of the history of where we've done, you know, where we've been at for the last 10 years and stuff, but then also, you know, kind of comparing, so like on the budget history, the amount of money that we asked for in 2012, in today's dollars, is $3.8 million. So, you know, and that, so it's an increase of $861,000 since then. Our increase and what we've asked for has been half of that, it's been $471,000, like the total dollars, so. So like I said, I feel like,
When you break it down, you're talking about the proposed 4.75, or the recommended, is $18 per household.
right,
You know, when you break that down. And we have been very careful, especially the last few years, we've done a renovation and kept the levy flat. But it's just, you can't do it. What are everyone's thoughts on 4.75 levy increase? I am looking at your lines of recommendation because, you know, that's where I was kind of following you, so, do we want to see any other options from Pam? How are we all feeling at 4.75?
I mean, I can change all these numbers around if you want, if you say, no, we're only gonna do 3% of everything, then I can show you what that looks like, but, yeah, that's why I brought this down, I thought it would be useful, if the board wanted to see some other numbers, we could do that.
When you look at the numbers, I don't think 3% is going to serve us very well with what we need to do, but.
Again, it does really come down to the building, and that, you know, I think that, you know, we've done amazing things with this building, but there's still some other things that still need to be done.
Well, and, you know, and the stuff now that we need to put the work into the building, yeah, it's not the most exciting, but it's what is gonna help us be structurally safe and make sure, you know, when you get to the point of safety and patrons coming in and families coming in, we need to make sure that we have a safe facility. So this is what we're talking about with the money that we're, you know, gonna be spending soon. So, how is everyone feeling with you know, if there are a lot of numbers out there, but if we kind of, you know, focus on the recommendation of the 4.75 levy increase and the 4% wage increases, is everyone feeling comfortable kind of working from that? Do we want to see another line with a different levy increase and a different, how's everyone feeling?
I don't really think there's a
Initially-
reason in making you crunch a bunch of
No.
numbers again, there's already options up there. If somebody wanted lower or higher, but I'm pretty comfortable with what you've recommended. I think about two groups of people when you were going over these numbers. I have my peers and my friends who are generally people with children. They tend to be library patrons, and part of what they like about Warren Grove is the library, so I don't feel like I have to defend it with them. My immediate neighbors generally do not have children, and they complain to me all the time about the school district.
No,
And not all of them know I'm a trustee, but if they find out I'm a trustee for the library, I'm sure they'll complain to me about that as well. But I think there's really good ways to defend the 4.75. Number one, inflation. The cost of everything went up. The value of the dollar is not what it was. We have to keep up with that. Number two, the economics right now favor employees. And as you mentioned to us a couple of meetings ago, we don't really have mid-level positions to retain high-value employees by offering them.
there's not a lot of places for.
Right, you
people
can't
to-
promote them
Yeah.
and say, okay, we're not giving you a big raise, but we're giving you
A title.
a promotion, a title to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Right, so you have to stay comparable or competitive with the salaries. Because we're seeing now, I mean, staffing is an issue in every single part of the economy. People, so really the ball's in their court, so we have to do what we can to try to retain the staff we have, especially, you did the survey, everybody said staff is what they love about this place.
Yeah, I mean, that is what makes it great, yeah.
And then the last thing really for me, if I have to defend this 4.75 is, you know, when we decided to not build a new library, then we committed to maintaining an aging building. And, you know, it's time to pay the piper, the bill has come due. I mean, just like we looked at the main level renovation and youth services renovation now, you can call this the exterior renovation. I mean, this is stage 3 basically of,
Right.
you know, revamping this building. And that has to be paid for with something. And we kept the levy steady out of respect to people's financial situations during COVID, but eventually these things have to be paid for.
I agree.
And the good thing is you showed with that track record there, it's not like, you know, because people are like, oh, once they jack up the rate, they'll never bring it down. But you see that you guys
Well,
have.
we won't bring it down.
Right, but
because I'm
you
not-
have
because
adjusted to small increases or-
abating tax dollars, unless you've really got a lot to abate, it really doesn't matter that much, but also it then affects a little bit less us because we're a village library and we're not our own taxing district, but yeah, I mean, as I said, I think that a slightly larger increase now makes it more likely that I can keep it flat next year. Or
And we don't have
again,
to
or
come
just
back.
having a really minor increase if necessary, but, while also addressing some of the building issues that we have.
And
And
the
to
best
echo,
line.
to echo Mohamed's point about the staff, I'm in support of at least the 4% across the board merit increases. I think we don't want our staff going other places, we want them to stay here. So, and nice words are nice, but they also need to feel
Right.
that appreciation as well.
No,
So,
no,
you know,
while I think a lot of
you know,
people
we're all
love their
past the
jobs,
the gold stars,
they're not
right?
doing
You
it
know.
for free.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Don't want to overlook anybody.
But that line, price per household, increase per household, when you look at it, it's 4 is $15.60, 4.7 is $18.59.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, you cannot feed your family pizza once for that price.
That's true.
It's really not a big ask. And I'm someone that complains all the time about his property taxes, but
Oh,
as a
have high
sliver,
property
as a
taxes too.
sliver of that, it's really, it's a small amount for a big return.
I mean, and to your
Compared
neighbors
to
without
other-
kids, I mean, perhaps not living in Morton Grove would probably, I mean, we're about school districts and, you know,
Yeah,
that's
It's
what we're.
what brings
And
it
it's always,
together.
school districts are always the highest
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's just the way that it is.
Also gives you higher property value.
Of
So it's
course.
kind of a
Yeah.
bad argument, so.
Yeah.
You get that back as soon as you sell your house.
And it wasn't as much as the pool.
That's true.
And I would say too, to your neighbors, you know, people who don't have children in schools, they sometimes enjoy complaining about the increases in the cost of gasoline and grocery store prices. But that's the reality, and they should also look at their social security checks going up, and to keep everybody's salaries more competitive. I think what Pam is requesting is totally reasonable. I mean, maybe when I first, you know, opened it up and I saw, whoa, 4.75, but then I thought in context with what's going on nationally with real estate and everything,
Just the
I
inflation.
think what you're requesting is doable and reasonable, and with our capabilities at the staff level to communicate to via our newsletters, I think we can easily broadcast what we're doing and why we're doing it, and have people come along with us on this journey, because it's easy to understand. They like what we've been doing. And if you want the same kind of service to continue, here's what it takes. And I think people buy into it because they know it's for them.
Hope so.
And this institution isn't just for kids. So it's not,
Oh, right, yeah.
it's not even
Yeah.
like a school district conversation. It's a community institution.
Yeah, I mean, and like today, looking at the newsletter, the email that came through, you've got programming for kids, but there's also stuff for seniors. So everybody gets their due from the library, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
unlike
focused
the
on
schools,
one
right, I
particular
mean, it's
set.
kind of for
Yes.
everyone, yeah,
Yes.
in a way that the schools aren't, right, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave anybody out. Does anybody want to share any feelings, any thoughts?
We're gonna pay for the downstairs, that's what I could consider. Yeah, you have to
Yeah,
raise it,
right,
we've got a loan out there.
Yeah, and that, yeah, and that had been figured, when I went out for the loan, I knew that that would be
Yeah.
happening, and obviously, you know, the world happens, right, things happen, and, you know, we can plan this till
Yeah.
the cows come home and have to chuck it all and start up, right, we know how that
And
is
we need
too,
the
so.
repairs, you need the
We need
roof,
the
it's
roof.
not,
There's
it's not
nothing
that we're adding on to this
Right.
building where we don't have any room to
It's
add
not
on to,
nice
or
to
spending
have
money
need to
foolishly.
have.
These are things that
Yeah.
have to be
Yeah.
done if you wanna maintain an older building,
Yeah.
it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and again, you have eliminated a lot of jobs, now you haven't, well, yeah, you've eliminated a lot of jobs, where people have quit and go, well, maybe we don't need that position anymore, so we're consolidating, and
Yeah,
the
Pam-
staff is okay with that, and they're gonna do a little more, one person's gonna do more because we no longer have this person. Well, I mean, you gotta pay them.
Yeah.
You can't expect people to do more.
Right.
I mean, it's it's just a total different.
Yeah.
I mean, can we
Generation.
conservatively, year to year, when you present the budget to us, I know what you're giving us is well thought out, and it offers us multiple variables that we can consider. So, I mean, you've got a proven track record for doing a budget.
Well, I mean, right, I mean, I know, right, I mean, I don't wanna pay high taxes either, and I think people are willing to pay things if they know what they're getting, right, and they feel
The
like
whole
it's worth it.
community is getting.
Right, that
It's
the whole
not
community
just-
is getting, it's not just like the schools or
Schools,
something like
exactly
that.
right.
This is a building that really is for the whole community
Exactly.
and who provides services to the whole.
And at least we can agree on a budget,
Yes.
more than other libraries can.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk sensibly and everybody is.
Trust
I
me,
mean,
I love my board.
Yeah. Historically, one quick note, I did want to, I was actually thinking, I'm like, wait, did we have that list? And it's at the bottom of my stuff. I don't know if everyone did see this, but review when you get a chance, because this is what John prepared in terms of, here's my recommendation for 2023, for 2024, for 2025, when you look at everything that needs to be prepared. And Luann and I found this really helpful when we met with them too, because it's like oh my God, we have 5,000 things need to be done, and he helped us kind of prioritize how we're gonna do that.
Right.
So anyway, so that's, you know, so when you get a chance, do review that, so that kind of helps, I think, guide Pam's construction budget and everything like that too.
I think
So-
once we get new windows, people will be more happy. Putting a new roof on, nobody sees.
I know.
Putting on gutters.
That's not-
Right, that's what I mean, it's like an elevator, that would be a brand new
Pretty,
fancy
yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
You know, windows, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, those are things where people will notice more
Yeah.
than tuck pointing.
Historically, we have voted on a levy and, you know, during the September meeting. If we want to let it marinate, we definitely don't have to, but we can move forward if we feel.
So the only thing I would say with that is that if it is the general consensus of the board to move forward with the 4.75 levy increase and a 4%
Thank you.
wage increase, sorry, I know. That if it's the general agreement, that will help me prepare the final documents, and then I can have the letter and everything ready to go for you to sign at the October meeting. Or whatever, I can prepare a couple different ones, or however you guys want me to do this.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
If we, agree on this, or tonight, and we take this home and I say, oh, wait a minute, I don't think I like this.
Mhm.
We can call you?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I need.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't even have to vote on it right now today. What I'm really looking for is kind of general direction.
It
Is
looks
that
good.
it sounds to me like everyone is in general agreement with my recommendation, and so I will clean this up then. You know, I can get rid of the lines that don't make any, you know, that we're not
We're not
considering
gonna
some of the
use
older
them
ones
anymore.
or the lesser ones.
Let's keep it at a first reading tonight, and then let's.
Yeah, it's
let's
the
vote.
first reading tonight. I will tweak this based on what I'm hearing from the board, but that's still the board, you can come back next month and say, no, this isn't, we want something different. Basically, I just have to get them cleaned up and get the documentation signed by Emily so I can send it to the village by November.
It's November, not October?
Usually the village wants it by the beginning of November for
Oh.
inclusion in their budgets at their budget
Oh,
meetings.
so we have to have it by October?
We have
We
to
have to
have
have
ours
ours,
yeah.
it doesn't necessarily have to be at our board meeting, it's just easy because everyone's here.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
okay.
kind of why we start now, is because I need to get it to the village so it can be included in their budgets for their budget readings.
Alright.
So, okay, so I am hearing the 4.75 levy increase, 4%.
In support of your recommendations.
Okay, so I will, like I said, I'll clean this up a little bit, it will be in your packets for next month, and I'll have the documentation stuff prepared. If the board says something different, I can tweak that, that's not a problem, but it gives me some guidance to straighten this up and get cleaned up a little bit then.
Okay, it's
Alright.
already September, and this
I-
next board
this
meeting, we have to
year-
really approve it.
It's- yeah, I know.
It's
I know.
like,
This
okay.
year is flying by,
Yeah.
just flying
I
by.
know. All right,
Faster it goes.
well, thank you again for all your work on that.
And I know, like I said, I mean, and you may very well go home and read this and have questions or whatever, especially for the newer board members who haven't gone through this process with me before. But yeah, feel free to email me, call me, or if you need clarification, if you have a question, I'm happy to talk with anyone. But I'll move forward with this, kind of as the guiding principle.
All right, we're not taking
Can I
action.
ask a question before we are done?
Yes. Or
How long are we gonna have mass or recommended signs?
probably for at least till the end of the year.
And that is why?
So they're still required for staff. And we just cut the signs up because it's been easy. But my concern, and I will continue to make them required for staff, my concern is that as we enter into cold and flu season, COVID is still with us, there's 500 people a day dying still, that kind of thing. So that's just generally my feeling about that. I mean, we can take those signs down. They used to be up there with the masks, then people were taking the masks, so now that we're not giving away the masks, we just kept the signs up. So, but they are still required for staff to wear, and I probably will
And that's
keep
your
them.
requirement?
That's my requirement, yeah. So I haven't, I've had one person ask me about those, and we've talked about it, and my concern is that we're getting into the winter months where, you know, if there's another surge, that kind of thing, so, we have found it easier to be consistent, rather than kind of, oh, you don't need a mask, now you need a mask, you don't need a mask, that kind of thing. So for staff, for at least staff, it's been easier, it's just been consistent, and people have found that more reassuring.
And they're okay with it?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I've had one person just ask me yesterday, but that's the first thing I've heard, and when we talked about it, they understood kind of my reasoning behind it, so. And I would say probably, I'm not on the floor a ton, but there's still probably half the people that come in are wearing masks. So,
I spent a lot of time here in the last few months, a lot of people.
a lot of people are still wearing masks, yeah, so. And because I'm not, when vaccines first came out and stuff, I was tracking them very closely, you know, just for contact tracing and all those other reasons and stuff with COVID. And, you know, another big reason that I'm continuing to require them for staff is because it's, luckily vaccines and most of the staff that's vaccinated have kept people from getting very, very sick, but it still means they have to be absent. And with the contagiousness of some of the newer variants, our concern is how easily something could be spread, particularly in some of the departments that they work pretty close together. And, you know, if they're sick, and I need a minimum number of people to run a particular department or to run the library. I mean, there was some of the considerations that we were thinking about, you know, when we were all, you know, closed or, you know, talking about this a lot, is the idea that how many people what's the minimum number of people I need to open a building? If I have a whole department that's out sick, what do we do? So some of the mask wearing requirement is to keep it from spreading among staff members so that I can keep the library open. So, because even though, like I said, a lot of people have been vaccinated, you know, some people have still been getting sick. Children, YS went through a phase where like 2 or 3 people got it at similar times, not from each other here, but like their husbands had it and then they got it, or you know, that happened to 2 or 3 people, and we were scrambling for desk coverage. So Jeff had a couple of people that were out, they caught it somewhere else, but you know, he had 2 or 3 people out, and so we're scrambling for coverage for circulation. So it's those kinds of things. That's my bigger concern is, you know, I need to keep people healthy so they can come in and work, sort of thing, so. Thank you.
All right, so, okay, let's finish up here. Communications, we did not have any. Public comments, non-agenda items, it is still just us. So, it is 8:53. Meeting is adjourned. Our next meeting is Thursday, October 13th.